I wanted to see how Wolf's audience was responding to his video, and immediately, the top comment did not disappoint with entitlement and stupidity, so it looks like we are going to have a lot of fun. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, share this with your friends so they understand how bad things are in Pokemon, and please leave your comments down below. Maybe it would be better if teams could be submitted before tournaments and players could receive rentals from the Pokemon Company with their requested items, stats, moves, and abilities. 2,000 upvotes. The rules are written the way they are because Game Freak clearly wants you to play their game. They want you to work for your things, which is why we don't have an official simulator yet. The developers want you to respect and interact with their creation. Your entitlement is not above that. I do think the biggest elephant in the room is the Pokemon Company telling people not to trade for their Pokemon. This is another BS narrative being pushed by bad actors to manipulate idiots in the Pokemon community. We see this with Blissey's video where he's like, it costs $500 to be competitive in Pokemon VGC, which is a complete lie, but even if it wasn't a lie, that still makes Pokemon one of the most accessible esports out there because you don't need a several $1,000 gaming PC and top-end peripherals, so you're not at a competitive disadvantage. Every frame and refresh rate matters for like FPS and action games. Smash controllers and fight sticks wear out and they cost hundreds of dollars. If you want to be competitive in anything, there's going to be financial and time gates. Pokemon is no different, but going back to the lie, you only need $60 and the console to compete in Pokemon VGC. You just need the game of the format. You don't need DLC, you don't need Pokemon Legends, Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl, you don't need any previous generation games. You just need $60 for the base game, which if you're a Pokemon fan and you love Pokemon, which is why you're competing, you should already have to begin with. So it's not even like you're going out of your way to spend money to be competitive. That's why Pokemon is so unbelievably accessible. And I still can't believe how hypocritical the Pokemon community has been about this whole deck scenario, because Generation 8, everyone hated Game Freak for bring back national decks. Generation 9, everyone hates Game Freak for opening up the decks and making more Pokemon usable. And in Generation 7 and earlier, no one, absolutely no one complained that you needed Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire so you could get Pokemon to use in Generation 7 for VGC. Because there's never been a game where all the Pokemon are available. So suddenly, now that's a problem, and it only coincides with cheaters getting caught, and now everyone that defends cheating, which is like 90% of the Pokemon community, being held accountable for their rule breaking, so they have to spin all these lies and narratives. And Blissey's video is just full of lies and hypocrisy because he says, oh, the Pokemon Company says to not trade for your Pokemon, and then he gets Pokemon in that video to trade to someone that's going to be competing at Pokemon Worlds. How does no one else see that, and then they go and turn around and just kind of like spout that garbage everywhere? Trading is one of the most quintessential aspects of Pokemon, which is why there's absolutely no rules against trading. The advisory is because there's so much hacking, because people blame the developers instead of the cheaters. That's what's wrong. Everyone is entitled in the Pokemon community. They want to cheat, they don't want to do any work to be competitive, so they just project that everywhere else. And then even when they receive a hacked Pokemon that gets them disqualified from someone else, instead of blaming the cheater, they blame Game Freak for having better hack checks. So when Game Freak does something about hacked Pokemon and punishes players for using cheats, then players get mad at the developers for enforcing the rules and trying to clean up the scene instead of the cheaters that are the ones polluting it and creating all of these problems. My personal, humble opinion is a top 5 red flags that you are about to read something stupid is that once you get to the postgame, there should be an in-game feature where you can straight up edit IVs, EVs, natures, moves, everything. It's the unbelievable entitlement. No one wants to work for their things anymore, and there's absolutely no respect for competition because the Pokemon community is that ignorant and toxic. As I've shown, the Pokemon community will contradict itself from generation to generation. They will lie within the same piece of content, and as I've shown on this channel, in a lot of cases, they will lie within the same sentence. Like Wolf in this video saying, it's hacking, it's breaking the rules, but it's not cheating. It's all about manipulation for idiots or just willful dishonesty. The Pokemon community is so entitled, so toxic, they just band together and be like, yeah, if we all lie, we just warp reality in our little bubble and no one can do anything about it. There's no integrity, there's no morality to be found anywhere in Pokemon, and I guess that's why we're seeing such an issue, because Pokemon is a weird game in that you can get away with cheating more than anywhere else. Not because the rules aren't enforced, but because of the unique situation we're in, where you can have like the most undetectable cheating in games, sports, or competition. So no wonder all the bad actors and losers flock to it, and it's just like these younger generations that don't understand anything about putting work towards something, because post-game exists to accelerate making competitive Pokemon or giving you access to that kind of stuff. Used to be the Battle Tower. Once you beat the story, you're free to make competitive Pokemon a lot quicker through some form of grinding. Make it post-game so it doesn't ruin the playability. If it's in the post-game, players will still hack because they don't have the 20 hours to beat through the story to actually get to that point. As we've learned, if it takes longer than 5 minutes to get a Pokemon legitimately, people are still going to cheat. You can really see the dishonesty in the community because the goalposts only move towards give us everything for free, and we're cheating until that happens. Because a lot of the complaints in Generation 6, Generation 7 is that it takes too long. Well, then we got bottle caps, we got mints, we got bottle caps being reduced down to level 50. It is so quick to make a competitive Pokemon, which is what they were complaining about in like Generation 6 and stuff. But no, now we're seeing as much hacking as ever. I think that's kind of the reality of this Pokemon world. Also, there's the debate I did with the Worlds 2022 second place who cheated at that event, where in the debate he says that 95% of VGC players use Gen Pokemon. It's always been that number. It was actually like higher even in like Generation 4 and 5, because everyone says, oh, you could RNG method. It took 100 times longer to RNG all these hacked, shiny, legendary Pokemon with hidden power and stuff in Generation 5 than does to get a competitive team that can win you Worlds now. So of course they weren't playing legit back then if they can't even do it with it being 100 times easier, and then they just want to move the goalpost back to, now we just don't want to do any work. Post-game does not exist, the game does not exist for anything but just being an official simulator. But the only thing most players do post-game are various forms of completionist goals that are community inventions, like dex filling, shiny hunting, grinding for competitive, etc, etc. It really is that there's just no real Pokemon fans anymore, right? That this is hundreds of hours of fun gameplay. Pokemon offers more than almost any other AAA title out there because you have so much replayability, and you can easily take it to a 999 save file off of just like competitive Pokemon battles and then like a little bit of friend engagement and shiny hunting or other things you want to do. And we've also seen this for like the last decade, where the Pokemon community complains that there's not enough content in any of the games because they're entitled brats and they just want to cheat everything, and then oh, by cheating you remove hundreds of hours of game content, and that also gives an advantage in time. Dang. The issue with the Enamorous IVs is that IVs aren't easily visible in Pokemon Legends Arceus. You have to move it to home in order to check its IVs at the point the game needs to be saved, therefore you need an entirely new save if the IVs aren't the one you need. Cool, that's called grinding. If you want to have like the most exceptional Pokemon with the most exceptional stats, you need to work for it. Also, that is still less time than it took to get competitive Pokemon pre-Generation 6. And maybe even a couple of Generation 6 Pokemon, like perfect legendaries as well. Yeah, if you want a perfect legendary, you're going to have to put in an incredible amount of work, because that's a perfect legendary Pokemon for the value. Bro, it's actually insane to think about how much cheating there actually was pre-Generation 8. People got mad at me because I'd see a full team of shiny Pokemon and call it hacked, when everyone was already cheating to begin with, but it was like actually everyone cheating. That is what this shows. It's so much easier now, and then there's like no acknowledgement of how much harder it was in like Generation 6, 5, and so on. Especially Generation 5. It's kind of wild that official tournaments aren't using rental teams, allowing the luck of getting the right IVs to affect matches is just crazy. Again, this is what Pokemon has always been, but now that cheaters are being held accountable, since everyone was cheating, everyone is terrified, and now it's just all this entitlement, again, that we've been dealing with, and all these lies, and just baffling stupidity to justify cheating, or to try to make it against Game Freak and not the cheaters, or justifying their own entitlement. Also, it's another really funny thing because people say, oh, it only matters what happens in the battle because breeding isn't a skill because it's RNG based. Actually, no. If you're proficient at breeding or getting competitive Pokemon, you're going to be able to get competitive Pokemon a lot faster than someone with less experience. That's because obtaining competitive Pokemon and breeding is a skill. So you actually mitigate a lot of this. Like, they're really overstating the luck of getting the right IVs. Really, the biggest example is Enamorus. But again, Enamorus doesn't even, like, compare to even Generation 6. Like, pre-Bottle Cap Hyper Training legendary Pokemon, like what Wolf used in his 2016 team. So the luck is non-existent in modern Pokemon, and the worst example isn't even a competitively viable Pokemon, so it doesn't even matter. And then, like, the worst thing is having to roll for 0 attack IVs, or, like, low attack IVs, because you don't always need 0, for, like, some damage calculations that barely matter. It's mostly about, like, Trick Room being kind of tricky, but again, like, if you have a good breeding setup and you're proficient at breeding, can do that pretty well. And then for the non-breedable Pokemon, just being better at the game, but since Pokemon Worlds has proven that no VGC player actually plays the game, and seems like 99% of the Pokemon community doesn't even play or want to play the games, they don't understand how achievable it actually is, and it's not as RNG as they say. More goalpost moving, being able to lower IVs would single-handedly make competitive team building 100% easier, except it isn't, because, like, 0 attack IVs are fairly niche, and Trick Room also isn't that, like, super common or crazy right now. So, like, while it would be a good thing, it also isn't a gate. It is one of the smaller, more niche things inside of it. Everything else has pretty much been solved. Abilities, natures, EVs all solved. So yeah, if, like, everything else is solved, then it's not going to be a drastic enhancement to the quality of life to be able to lower IVs. This is just moving the goalpost, and even if there was a rusty bottle cap that sets your IVs to 0, the Pokemon is still, like, there's still going to be 95% cheaters in VGC. It's not going to knock it down to even 94%. It seems to me that not allowing ginning will create a huge nepotism issue where people already heavily networked and with tons of friends can get every Pokemon they need, while people entering the scene will be stuck with budget options. Fortunately for you, Wolf proved that's not a problem. Despite being the most popular VGC player, Wolf can't get a Moltres, Groudon, or even an Incineroar from other people without it being hacked. So if there was no ginning, these networks would immediately crumble because they're all just receiving hacked Pokemon from people anyways. Now, this would be a problem if there weren't bans, because Wolf and every other top VGC player has fraudulently earned their position and their networking from cheating. So you ban everyone that's ever used Gen Pokemon, and then there's no scene left, so everyone is starting from scratch without hacked Pokemon. So there actually isn't any issue here. Also, this is a legal advantage. Having more money for a better coach and dietitian and training in sports is going to give you an advantage, but it's not against any rules. Same thing for something like chess, where if you can spend thousands of dollars on coaching and training and lessons and stuff like that, then you're going to be in a better position to become a master or grandmaster or make a lot of money through competition. That's all legal. Hacking the game in Pokemon is not. Therefore, there is absolutely no justifying it whatsoever. So I would say that the nepotism of having friends working together to get Pokemon faster than others is better than the nepotism of players like Wolfey VGC being allowed to cheat because the Pokemon company is corrupt. These people are actually too stupid to understand that cheating nepotism is worse. But the rules changed from allowing only Scarlet and Violet decks to the entirety of Pokemon Home mid-season. All those accessibility problems are much worse under new rules with a stricter deadline. Except not. If you're actually playing the game, you should have access to these things already, especially because Pokemon Home is so good. It's not like the thing updated a week before Pokemon Worlds, and then you had to scramble to, like, catch it in Sword and Shield, transfer it to Pokemon Home, and then get it into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. No, anyone that's actually played the games, but as we've proven, no one in VGC or the Pokemon community plays the games. Anyone that's actually played the games was already equipped by the time the rules were announced. There was absolutely more than enough time from the announcement to get all the Pokemon that you needed from scratch for Worlds. I just realized this debunks everyone that says that it only matters what happens in battle, and it also proves that getting competitive Pokemon is a skill. If you're a good Pokemon trainer and you're better at getting competitive Pokemon faster and more efficiently than others, you're going to have an advantage over the people struggling to make the World's deadline. That kind of goes back to this as well, where we talk about people entering the scene being at a disadvantage, the ignorance and stupidity of the Pokemon community. It just keeps on going, because that's true of every form of competition ever. People in the sport longer or starting younger will have an advantage. They'll have more skill, they'll have more practice, and they will have more networking under their belt. Congratulations, Pokemon is no different, and cheating is not acceptable for that. Coming late into a scene does not allow you to use steroids to catch up. And because every single Wolfey VGC fan is objectively an idiot, it's all the same NPC hive mind rhetoric. It's just surface level stupidity and entitlement. Seen a lot of suggestions to make PvP rental team customizable. They just make it to where bottle caps give you the choice of IVs. I sorted by newest to see if we'd get a different kind of comment, but no, it's the same disgusting entitlement. I really appreciate your final point. I think competitive Pokemon is such a cool game, but as an adult with a job, the startup costs are simply infeasible. That's because you are weak and entitled, and also it just doesn't make any sense. Wait a second. If you have a job, that means you use that job to fund the startup costs. That's what Olympians do. Olympians need to get like extra jobs so they can fund their coaching, their diet. Like if you want to be an athlete, it actually costs an insane amount of money on just nutrition. Also, training equipment, you get into an insane financial cost before the hundreds of hours of actual training that is more difficult than anything inside of Pokemon. But again, that doesn't allow you to take illegal substances or any shortcuts, and most Olympic athletes are not sponsored. So if you like to become someone, you have to work from the ground up. You need to take extra jobs, and you need to sacrifice everything to go for your Olympic or competitive dream. Pokemon is no different, and these kids are just lying, or they're that ignorant of the real world. I don't have 100 hours of startup time. That's just a lie. You can set aside 3 hours a day, and then you're there within a month. To beat 5 games, again, that's just the lie from Blissey and also Wolf peddling just complete nonsense, because you only need the base game to compete. And if cheating wasn't such a problem, then you could like train your own Pokemon. Like, yo, you hatch a shiny, you trade that for an Urshifu. Because other people are just going to be farming the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC because they've got the speed run down, so they're getting Urshifu like in no time, whatever. So to them, it's like, wait a second, yeah, I've got 20 Urshifus I saw free set for. I'll take a shiny competitive Pokemon for that. So it'd actually be a really cool trading economy if hacking wasn't such a big problem. And again, it's not against the rules to trade anyone. So no, you don't have to beat 5 games. You just need to beat the 1 game. And also, it depends on what Pokemon you need for your team. All the DLC, again, lie. Research which Pokemon I need to pay attention for their IVs ahead of time, so I'd make sure I don't throw away my chance at a Cresselia, etc. Congratulations, that is the most basic rock bottom amount of time and work needed to be competitive in anything. Pokemon is no different. You're going to have to, like, that's the thing about the Pokemon community. They just expect to come in at like the top form of competition, most elite level, for free, no work, anything involved. Also, this entire comment is just explaining why hacking Pokemon gives an advantage, because the person following the rules is already doing all of that stuff. And just because you don't want to doesn't entitle you to breaking the rules. And there we go. We found the one other discussion topic in the comment section. They should release their anti-hack check software to the public so you can check your Pokemon before tournament. All that does, the only thing that does, is empower cheaters to reverse engineer the hat check and then never get detected again. And also, they won't get detected because they're running everything through the hat check before tournament. So they can hack anything they want, however they want, and then all I have to do is test it with that, and then they're good to go. I think it will be better so people won't get DQ'd because they're using a traded Mon. Except, again, there's no innocent person that got DQ'd at Worlds because it's all cheaters anyways. So instead of blaming the deliberate cheaters, they are projecting their entitlement onto the cheaters and blaming the developers for trying to enforce rules that are very basic to understand and don't create any accessibility issues whatsoever. Oh yeah, also this comment, again, of just like idiots that don't actually play Pokemon but for some reason find themselves in the Pokemon community. As a very casual, outside enjoyer, I find the discussion around hacking interesting because until I watched, I assumed this would be how teams were built for the event, facilitated by the event. There's actually like an upsetting amount of people that actually thought that Pokemon events just gave you the Pokemon, which is the most baffling thing ever. That means like you actually have never had to have played a Pokemon game with any intent whatsoever, or you've never read the rules. So the people defending cheating have actually never read the rules or attempted any form of competition. Ow, that was actually just like the headache slamming into my brain right now. I'm done. GG.